So you guys start out with just trailer sales.
Trailer sales.
Right? Buying
Nothing
old
else.
trailers,
Right.
then you sell them.
Exactly.
How do you start to grow the business from there? Because now you start to rent and lease. Tell me about how that happens.
So all of our progression in different business units that we set up from this dealership, it really came out of necessity, right?
Okay.
So if you can think about it, a guy comes in to the dealership, likes a $50,000 or $60,000 trailer. Maybe back then they weren't that much, right? Now they are.
Yeah.
But he likes, $40,000, $50,000 trailer. I mean, we're talking with owner operators. They don't have that sitting in cash. So what do you do, right? So you have to work with, at that point, brokers. So we'd work with a finance broker. And we work with this broker consistently. And, at this point, maybe a year or so into it, 2 years into it, we're selling 10 to 15 trailers a month at this point, which is pretty good. We're doing well. But the broker's handling all the financing. He's flipping us $100 here, $200 here. My dad actually knew the economics of that. And he said, well, if he can do it, maybe we can set it up too. The broker's just working with banks and industry lenders. Why can't we set that up? So this is going to be a common theme. He kicked me out and he said, all right, well, go do it. And I'm like, I'm 22, 23 years old at that point.
Yeah. I
don't know anything about even business, right? I'm learning. I'm getting the hang of sales, and I'm following up with my clients, and I'm, out there sweating in the Florida heat, and I'm enjoying it.
Right.
And he kicks me out and he says, hey, look, we got Matt now in the office, and I got the guy in, Brian in Tennessee, and I think we're covered in sales. And maybe looking back, I just did a bad job, but he kicked me out. He said, look, go get a nice office in Fort Lauderdale, downtown Fort Lauderdale somewhere. Get out of North Miami and go start a finance division of our company.
Okay.
And so I did, right? And so I figured out who the lenders were, and I made the calls, and I sent the business plans. And one of the first lenders that we got set up with was a company called Hitachi Capital.
Okay.
Right, which has since sold a few times. But they're an industry lender, and they focus in truck and trailer lending. So they took a shot at us as a small dealership with no OEM new representation, and they allowed us to start working through them to structure these deals.
Okay.
Which paid us more money. We get referral points if we got enough business going with them. But it also did something too that I didn't think it would do, is it allowed us to charge less money for our client.